So I'm sitting here in Marietta, Georgia, with Jonathan Greer.
Yes, sir.
I've been calling you Greer because Jonathan Strack is walking around. It's way confusing.
There's literally like 7 or 8 Jonathans on the payroll.
Yeah.
So everyone gets a last name except him. He's the one that
I think when you have over 680 some employees, you're going to have a couple of names like that on the payroll. Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're actually stepping up to the line or we're empowered to build.
Kind of merge the both.
Yeah. So you host a podcast for STRACK.
Yes, sir.
And I want to talk a little bit about that later here. But before we get into that, so we're here in Marietta, Georgia. What is this event that we're sitting at here with all of this STRACK gear around and all of these other companies around us?
Man, I think these events are pretty cool. This is my 3rd event. So this is the AGC Skills Challenge.
Okay.
And it's really just getting all the trades together in the construction world and trying to I take it away as trying to show a future to some of these younger generation, and because it seems like the skilled trades has kind of fizzled out. You know? And there's been a big push. I know when I was growing up, going through high school and stuff, there was a big push to, when you finish high school, you go to college.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. And college is not for everyone. And there's definitely room, and there's definitely a need for these trades, and there's a need for these kids to learn these trades, and there's plenty of money to be made. There's a great career in it, and I don't know. I mean, I think these events are great, and to bring light to that.
Yeah. Do you talk about there's a great career to be made and whatnot? I'm just curious. I didn't see if you're married or if you have a family.
I am married, yeah. Family,
okay.
Kids,
you have
everything.
kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 boys. Yeah.
And so 3 kids, you're married.
Yeah.
This is really important. Is it a career to be made that you can actually live a good life and provide for your family?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially, so I've only, STRACK is the only company that I've worked for in this industry. So,
really?
Yeah. So I kind of, when I came into it, and these guys are great, man. Jonathan, there's no better, And
that's because he's the real deal.
He is.
He's real.
He's very real.
Yeah.
And he's super humble. That is probably one of our favorite core values is humble hearts and open hands. And that's what I think of when I hear that, when I think of Jonathan. But yeah, so I don't really have much to compare it to. I just know that it's a great company. There's great opportunity, and there's a super bright future, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
So tell me a little bit about your origins. Like where do you come from that this is your first time in this industry?
Yeah. So I went to school at West Georgia and I graduated in 2011. So that was right after the housing market and the economy was kind of coming back.
Yeah.
And I got into land surveying, and I just kind of fell into it, and I was looking for anything and something to do after college, and a buddy of mine worked for a company, and he just said, "Hey man, come give us a shot," and I was going to hire to do GIS, and when I got there, the owner of the company was like, "Hey man, you want to learn how to survey?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll learn whatever." So I did that for I worked for that company. We were a contractor for Georgia Power, and so I surveyed transmission lines. I did that for about 3 years. And then I hired on with Georgia Power, and I was with them for about another 3, almost 4 years. And my buddy Kyle that we talked about earlier, he was already here at STRACK, and he said, "Man, just come talk to him, man. Just come talk to him and see what happens, And he's like, "No commitment, just come have lunch." And that's what I did, and I just picked up on the vibe, man, and I loved it. So I went with it. I just dove in. It's coming from a Fortune 500 company to a family-owned company. It's it's kind of you're kind of hesitant, but just like I said, after talking with the guys, and it just felt right, and I just went for it, and I haven't looked back since. And these guys have given me more opportunities than a lot of the previous 2 employers, and I love it, man, and I'm happy to be here, and everybody at STRACK is just great people,
So tell me,
and that makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you grow as a company, and you referred to STRACK as a family company or family-owned company, and sometimes when we hear that, we think, oh, well, they're not that big. That's not true.
No.
You guys are very large, and one of the things that I've noticed about your company is as you grow as an organization, it's really difficult not to become corporate. There are some things that feel corporate just because when you get bigger, you have to do certain things.
Yeah, you do.
But what is it about STRACK, do you think that, how are they, I don't want to say fighting that corporate feel, but I actually think that your leadership is trying to fight that corporate feel.
And I think I think you answered your own question, man. I think the leadership is still wanting that family feel. And you come to the office at lunchtime, everybody's sitting down in the break room having lunch together, and Jonathan, he comes in there and any chance he gets, and nestles in there and sits down and has lunch with everybody. And so it just kind of it brings that humility to this massive company that he has built. And, and it's just it just kind of brings a little peace across all of it, and it's just cool to be a part of, man. It really is. And but how do you keep that family feel? But his dad is still involved. His mom is still involved, and obviously he's involved, and we have a lot of family events. So you really get that family feel, and he does a lot of team building events and stuff for us to get together and rub elbows.
Didn't you guys just have like a service day where you pretty much shut down the entire company, and everybody comes and you're meeting and building together? Yeah. So I've been an owner. I've been a founder. Yeah. I've been involved in managing different organizations. I don't think a lot of people realize what that costs, because when you pull, I'll tell you a little story real quick. I can remember one time I was sitting in a meeting, and this is a negative towards me, so anybody listening that knows me will like this. Yeah. People love to hear about my mistakes. Sitting at a table, and I'm big with numbers, and I do a lot of fast calculations, in my head. And so I'm in this meeting with our team, and this was years and years ago, and we're talking about this issue or this problem, and I start calculating the people's salaries at the table. And I'm like, all right, so we've been talking this for an hour and a half now, and I'm like, so we have spent this much money because we're not out there making money. Right. And my business partner, he kind of got in my face, and he goes, you can't do that. I don't think a lot of people, I share that. That's the wrong way to do it. You don't want to sit there and calculate that way, especially with where we were and the solution we were trying to come up with. Right. Because everybody at the table could feel that I was doing that. Right. It came across in my attitude. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think a big thing about that service that you mentioned, I think it's just doing the right thing. Yeah. And that is the right thing to do, to give back to the community. Yeah. And Jonathan is huge on that, is doing the right thing and giving back. But yeah, like you said, the entire company, all 650 or however many we're up to now, everyone did something that day. Wow. And we were all around Metro Atlanta. Everyone was doing different things.
So that's a lot of money. I'm slipping back into my old calculations.
Yeah, it was
I'm
a lot of money.
I'm sure they're aware, but they made that decision intentionally.
It was a lot of money. I'm sure it was a lot of money when you stop and think about it. But I think the bigger value is what we're giving back, and showing people that to do the right thing, man, and you have to give back. You have to be involved in the community, and it's just it kind of comes back to that family feel, and it just brings that humble hearts and open hands, So
I think it's awesome that you guys actually put your money where your mouth is.
Oh yeah,
and you live out your values.
Big time.
And that would be the biggest thing that I would say. Anytime there's an organization like that, you can go there to work, and everything might not be the way that you expected. It might not be what you see on social media, but you can look at that core belief that you guys continue to walk out every day.
It's real.
That's pretty cool.
It's real. And those values are at the forefront of everything that we do. And it's really the backbone of us right now. And it kind of always has been. And that was something we talked about in one of our podcasts, was the values have always been there. Yeah. And 'cause this company's been around for 76 years now. So, the values have always been there. It's just now we're on the rooftop screaming it out now. Now we're putting it on T-shirts. We're putting it on trailers. We're we're putting it out there, and you don't see that with other companies.
Yeah.
And that's something that I kind of, once we started doing all of this, and I started looking around on other companies, and you don't see that much.
Yeah.
And if any at all,
Yeah.
And so, he just the core values that we have is the backbone of this company, and that's what keeps us going. And
I think the thing that's really interesting about your values, like you say, they've always been there. Yeah. And one of the things that I've learned is we need to put handles on them.
Right.
A few years ago in our organization, I was talking with a consulting firm, and we were working with them to communicate our values. And the lady that I was talking with, she said, well, Josh, I said, well, people know our values because they've always been there. Yeah. And this is what I believe. This is what it is. This is who we are. And she said, you need to put handles on them so that you can hand them over to people. And they helped us communicate and do that. And that's a lot of what STRACK is doing. We're going to talk about your podcast. I think that's one of the ways that you're putting handles on your values.
That is a big way.
And I think that's something that you're doing through media and even your investment here.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to talk about before we make a shift here, how do you guys deal with, and maybe you don't know, and it's okay not to have the answer to this, but we're all utilizing media right now in different ways than we ever have before. And I think it's really exciting because, I know what billboards used to cost. I know what phone book ads used to cost. If you're under 25 and listening to this, you probably don't even know what a phone book is.
The yellow pages.
Yeah. It was Google before. Yeah. But it's we're utilizing this media in this new way, and we're communicating all these good things. And I think one of the things that I struggle with media is that it's like two-dimensional. It's only one side.
Right.
Like right here, you and I are sitting in this space. It's a little cold. It's the coldest it's ever been in Georgia that I've been here. We're sitting in this space, and like I can reach over and I can touch you.
Right.
Like it's four-dimensional. We're here. I think media sometimes with its two-dimensional way doesn't communicate the fact that you can communicate all these good things.
Right.
But the work is still work.
It's still going on. Yeah.
So what would we're here at this event to talk with young people and to encourage them to enter the trades. Mm-hmm. Greer, what would your statement of encouragement be to young people that are looking at those two-dimensional things and they come to STRACK or they come to another company that's doing that and making that investment and they're not aware of the hard work and that takes time?
Well, I had this conversation the other day similar to this. The hard work is that's something that has to be on the forefront. You have to put the time in, and you have to learn. You have to soak it in, and you have to learn from the previous generation. And I hope that's one thing that I hope that these kids here today realize that yes, we're going through all of this to build you up and to prepare you, but at the same time you're not going to learn everything out here today, and you have to get out there. You have to get your boots dirty. You have to get in there, and you have to be willing to soak it in and apply it. So I don't know if that answers your question. I hope it does. But
I think what you're talking about is things take time.
It does.
What is it?
It does take
to master anything takes 10,000 hours.
Yep.
I was just talking with someone here this morning about really it takes 5 solid years in an organization, I think, to get to a place. You got a year or two of the organization investing in you.
Right.
And then you got a year or two of doing the work that they've invested to teach you how to do.
Right.
And then in that 5th year, it's like, oh, okay, now there's we struggle with, at least when I was younger, and matter of fact, I don't even know that it's younger. I'm just more aware of it now.
Yeah.
I want it now. Like I want it now. And I don't
can't
want
have everything now.
Yeah. Well, let's be real about it. All the things that I have in my life that are worth anything to me came through great hardship and work.
Yeah.
All the things that I got immediately, I don't even remember half of them or where they are.
Right. But you remember the grind.
I remember the grind.
You remember the grind. And you remember what you got from that grind.
I do.
And that's what sticks with you. And I hope that these kids learn that too. Because that was something that, for me, I mean, it's been a grind for me. And I'm not saying I'm not the best at anything, but I think I'm pretty decent at what I do, but I appreciate the grind. I know that the grind is something that you have to have, and you have to embrace it. And you have to, I like to say to some of the young guys, you have to embrace the suck.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Because it's going to suck, but you have to embrace it, and you have to stay positive, and you have to know that you got to keep grinding and keep moving.
Yeah. Greer, that's really good. I think that that you need to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And you have to set your expectations of time. I think that, like, if you think that something should happen in this amount of time, double it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Double it.
Yeah.
And it helps when you set your expectations, because it might not always take that long.
Right.
Matter of fact, when you have the attitude of being prepared that it's going to take what it's going to take, that is the only time that things happen faster.
Right.
Like if you sit there and you watch a pot of water boil, it takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you actually aren't concerned, and you built your expectation, and you're not worried about how long it takes, it will get there.
It'll come.
Yeah.
It'll come.
So I want to ask you a question. What is one thing that you can't live without? Piece of gear or tool or...
Yeah. The day-to-day, the simplest answer is my boots, man. That is, I'm every day I'm on the ground. I'm in the dirt. I'm out there, and that is something you got to have a good quality pair of boots.
I 100% agree.
But also,
I would actually say you need. My wife is listening. You need to have many quality pairs of boots.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. To me, that is what that's what takes you there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that's what you put them on every day, and your boots tell your story.
Yeah.
And
dude, that's good.
Yeah, your
boots tell your story.
Your boots tell your story, man. And I've got a few pair of boots that have got some stories, and my wife wants me to get rid of them because they're nasty, they're holey, they're worn down, and I'm just like, no, because I remember what it took to get those boots like that. It was a lot of hard work, and it was a grind. But I would say the boots, man. That is.
So are you a hardcore boots guy in the sense? So I'm a hardcore boots guy.
Right.
I have the same pair of sneakers, I think, since I got married, and I've been married a long time.
Right.
And they haven't worn out yet, because my wife thinks I'm weird because I'm most comfortable in my boots wherever I am.
Yeah.
Like, I have church boots, I have traveling boots,
Right.
I have work boots, I have, and I'm really sounding like a weirdo right now. I have traveling boots. It sounds like a country song. Where's Dolly Parton?
Traveling boots.
Yeah.
You got your dancing boots.
Well, I just mean, like, you have Iron Rangers on right now. They're great for going through an airport because they have those eye hooks. So boom, you get your boots off really fast and you throw them back on.
Right.
So yeah. Well, boots. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. It's been said before. So let's talk about, you host a podcast for STRACK.
Yeah.
And it's called Empowered to Build.
Empowered to Build, yeah.
Which I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Because that is part of what you guys are doing.
That day to day.
Yeah. And it's how you're investing. The interesting thing about your podcast, and we're sitting here at your podcast table.
Yeah, this is something we kind of whipped up here, man.
Is this your first, you're going to be doing a podcast here later today. Yeah. This is your first, in the field, live podcast?
It actually is. Yeah, we're usually in our office in a nice little, cozy, intimate setting in the corner of the office.
I've never experienced that. We do every single podcast like this.
Well, man, next week we actually are doing one on site.
That's awesome.
It's going to be our first one on site, and we're all kind of giddy about it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
That'll be cool.
We're going to be out there on one of our residential job sites, and we got one of our general superintendents is a great dude, Kyle Ziegler, who's going to have him on, and it'll be great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So why make the investment to have an internal podcast? It's weird. I mean, it's not. Well, because I understand.
I'm
but
new
for
to the
listening,
podcast world.
Well, hey, welcome. Me too.
Yeah.
This is my 50-second podcast.
Well, I'm new to it, and when they mentioned doing it, and Jonathan came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna have you, run the podcast." I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, but. But he
at least you weren't like, "What's a podcast?"
Right? No, he just wants to get the message out there because we have our own app.
Yeah.
One STRACK app, and that's where all of our podcasts go. And we've got over 650 employees now, so you kind of need that one-stop shop to get the message is out there, and but that's kind of how it all began. And we just like to talk about the day-to-day stuff at STRACK, man, and kind of bring that humility to it, and make it something enjoyable and something relatable to people that are watching it. And I don't know, it seems to be going great. They keep asking us to do it. So
really,
yeah. So
I think it's a great way to do what we were talking about. I love it. The competitors are actually walking by behind us. I think that's awesome. Yeah. It's a great way to do that thing where you're putting handles on your values.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're putting handles on that stuff. And
right.
Internal podcasts are, I don't know if it matters what size company you are, because the cool part about it is people think, well, I need to have this many people for us to invest in a internal podcast.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And there's all different ways to do it.
Right.
We have cameras and all sorts of stuff here.
Right.
But it's like you can just throw out your phone, make a recording. And I mean, it's not, technology exists that you can do this. And I think one of the things that is really cool about the internal podcast is then your team, your people, they can listen to that whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool things about technology, whether it's video, whether it's recording, whatever it might be, is it's always there. They can always go back to it.
Right.
It's what you've said. If you're talking about, hey, these are our values, it's like, even someone new, it's like, hey, listen to these podcasts. It'll tell you about what we are, how we do this. Like, I'm curious with your internal podcasts, like, do you guys talk about problems and solutions and things like that?
We do. We talk about a lot of things. And to get back to why we do a podcast, this just came to me. A big thing for Jonathan was what was the why, why we do things. And he talks about in one of them that, when he was growing up, he wanted to, his mom would tell him no, and it was why. That was his question. And she just said, because I said so. And, and that never set well with him, So he believes, and I believe it too, that if you give people the why, then people will follow.
Yeah.
People will tend to care more. And so that's kind of another reason for the podcast is to kind of give the why to a lot of things that we're doing. And to kind of make it at a easy, digestible, source, to get this information. So
like, one of the things that I struggle with a lot in our organization, we do this thing where they're called strengths finders. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is, I love that they call them all strengths. It goes from 1 to 34. 34 being still called a strength, but it's not as high as, and it reverses. So like your top 5, you just do naturally. But if it's 34, it's like you have to work at it a little bit. I heard someone describe it. It's like, picture a highway, well-paved highway. You can do 100 miles an hour. Right. That's your top 5.
Yeah.
Picture, between 10 and 20, that's like a back road. And, in the 30s, you're off-roading, baby.
Unpaved gravel road. Yeah.
So now that I've given that context is 34 for me.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that what you're talking about with the internal podcast, it really can give context around at why you do what you do.
Right.
And that's what Jonathan is talking about. And just the importance of context in the why you do what you do really does matter.
It does. It goes a long way. And I see that with my kids.
Yeah.
I try to put these values into my kids because I see a lot of value in them.
Yeah.
And so I try to put those into my kids, and it's for the why, and they're like, why? Well, I want you to be a productive citizen. I want you to be good people.
Yeah.
I want you to grow up to be good people.
Yeah.
And that's why, because you need to treat people with respect. You need to treat people how you want to be treated. And so I preach that to my kids all the time. And so, it sounds simple, but I feel like it's overlooked a lot, and it's not something that's in the forefront. And but yeah, give them the why, man. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
What are some of give me some examples of some of the things that we're talking about your podcast, and it's really truly about the why, but like, drop me into a podcast episode with you. Like, what are you, do you have employees on? Who's your guest?
Yeah, well, we do have employees on here. So we've only done I want to say about 8 or so episodes, and we had our first one with Jonathan, and that was kind of why that's where he gave the why. And we've had Mr. Brian Hanna here. He's one of our VPs, and we had him on just to kind of give us the future, the outlook, give us a pulse of the company kind of thing. And so now we're trying to get more into the boots on the ground, the guys who are out there every day, and we kind of dipped our toes in it. We have an all-employee meeting. We have those I think we have them quarterly. So we did a quick little podcast there, and we was just plucking guys. We had a couple operators.
Wow.
Yeah, some guys are a little shy. Kind of hard to crack them out of the shell. But we had a handful of guys that are they're out there every day. They're out there grinding every day, man. And so it was good to have those guys on there, and we're trying to get more of that to make it more relatable. And because you keep doing these podcasts and you keep having our executives on there, which is great. I love it. But at the same time, you want it to be more relatable. So you want the people who were there every day seeing the interactions within the company and how we're building these job sites and how we're living out these values. And so it's good to see it from the ground.
I think that's something that is really important because it can get lost. We talked about hard work. Yeah. And we talked about how it's hard, and in the construction world, in the trade world, it's one of the businesses where we have to work with other people that aren't on our team. Actually, like you guys aren't an all-encompassing company. You don't build the buildings, and you're bringing the infrastructure in. You're bringing things to grade. You're doing those things, and so you have to actually. I find it fascinating in the trades. We have to interlace and work together with teams that aren't ours and might not align with our values. And so I think that it's really important when you have an internal podcast like this, you can talk about the ways that you have to deal with that.
Right.
Because sometimes we have to live out our values and what we believe when no one else does, or they don't understand.
And that's when it matters.
That's when it matters the most.
That's when it matters the most.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know it's a little weird doing a podcast when there's all this stuff going on around.
A lot happening, man.
There's a lot happening.
A lot happening.
So, you do the podcast. How long have you been at STRACK?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years this
month.
Look
at that.
Actually.
5 years. So you're right there in that mastery stage.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But yeah, it's been 5 years, man, and it has been a great 5 years, and I'm forever thankful to these guys, man. And I've told Jonathan, I was like, man, I don't know what my future holds, but I do know this: it's going to take a lot to run me off.
Yeah.
So I'm here, I'm committed, and if you want me to go wash the next tractor that pulls up on the wash rack, I'll do it. So.
What would you say to people about the importance of who you work with in enjoying your job? 'Cause you just touched on something there that I think is really interesting. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about how much they love this aspect of their job. And they have a new job now, or they loved this job over here, right, and they weren't doing this sexy and cool thing. Mm-hmm. And now they're doing this sexy and cool thing, and they hate their job. And when I was talking with them, the big thing that I noticed in the conversation was the people that they were working with changed.
Changed in what way? Like, what do you mean?
Meaning they went to a different company.
I got you.
And so, yeah.
Well, I think change is scary for some people, but I feel like our change is a good change, and when you move to something else within the company, you're changing, but again, it's all about embracing that suck in the bigger picture, and once we have that bigger picture in mind, you have that why, it makes things a little easier, a little better.
Well, I guess, like in this person's instance, they went to a different company, a different culture, a different set of values.
Right.
And, of course, being the size that you guys are, you're always thinking of, I love that. You wouldn't even think about change to another company. You're thinking about change within a company.
Right.
Which is pretty cool about the size that you are and that you guys can do that. But I'm trying to get to what I would call and I've said this before on our podcast, the Black Hawk Down mentality.
Right.
There's a movie called Black Hawk Down. And in that movie, they ask the one special operator, well, why do you do this? because like he's dealing with the suck, as you call it.
Yeah.
And he says, well, the men and women around me.
Right.
It's about the guy standing next to me.
Right.
And I guess I'm wanting you to articulate the value of, because I can hear it in the way that you talk. I can hear it in the way that everybody talks. And you even just said you would wash that machine and you would love it because it's about the people that you're with.
Well, I think it's because I think just to keep it simple is we care. And we care about the person next to us. We care about not only the work that they're doing, but when they go home to their family and their kids and all of that. So I think that is a big, huge part of it, is that we care. I care day to day, and I care about what I'm doing, and I also care about the guy next to me, what he's doing.
So how do you identify, like say I'm a person, I'm not at STRACK, I'm going into a company, I'm looking for a place to work, I'm wanting to enter the workforce, or I'm wanting to change careers. How do I identify whether or not they care? What are the markers that I can see that before I'm in it?
I think the little things that people do, just as simple as carrying a conversation with someone and being present. Being present is a big thing that I think, especially with like your kids.
Yeah,
it makes a big difference if you're present with your kids, and just be present and be there and interact But I think that's a big one, is just being present, and we see that on the day to day. Is we're present with each other, and I think that makes a big difference. It really makes a big difference.
I think that you touched on something that is really important. I think it's important whether you're a leader in a company. I think it's important whether you're a father, a mother, whatever. Especially with kids, that was something that I learned years ago. Was the difference between presence and proximity.
Yeah.
And I think that applies across the board, because to identify what presence is I'm here and I'm in this conversation.
Right.
I'm listening to you. I'm hearing what you have to say. Proximity is, I would come home from work and I would sit down in the living room with my kids, and they're in the living room, and I'd open up my laptop and I would do work from the living room.
Right.
And my kid was sitting 3 or 4 feet from me, and they're reading a book or doing whatever they're doing. That's proximity.
Correct.
Presence is, hey, I'm making eye contact with you.
Right.
I'm having a conversation with you.
Right.
I am letting you know that not only when you're present, you're listening to what the person is saying. And I think listening is a huge part of it as well. Mm-hmm. If you're like, I mean, you have to be listeners, and not, we all do this where we sit there and we're listening to someone and we're trying to figure out what it is that we're going to say next.
Right. Right.
That's what we're trying to do. And we need to like train that out of ourselves, because if you're being real and authentic, then you don't need to think about what you're going to say next.
Right.
You're just going to say what's true.
Yes, it just comes to you. It comes from the heart.
Exactly.
And that's a big thing that I feel like we do here. I mean, it comes from the heart.
And, it truly does.
And you can see it with all of this and everything that we do day to day, and the way we interact with our clients, the way we, go above and beyond for our clients, and we're present with them, and our work shows, and it comes from the heart. And our guys truly, truly care. And it's great to see. I'm on the job sites every day, and I see it. And I see it, and I believe it. And that's one thing to hear it and talk about on a podcast and whatnot, but I see it every day, and I believe it. I see it, and I believe it.
So what is you talk about you're on the job site every day, and so you're not podcasting every day.
No.
So what is your role in the company that you're on the job sites every day?
I'm a field engineer, so I'm out there banging stakes, man. I do the layout for our pipe crews for superintendents, and then we use a drone to topo our job sites. Do
you know how awesome it is that you're not just a podcast host, but he actually does the work?
I'm out there every day sweating, grinding it out, man.
Come on.
And it's always something new. It's always something different, and that's what I love about it. We get these job sites we spend a handful of months on, and I'm fortunate enough I get to these job sites where it's still wooded. There's still trees on the ground, and then see that evolve, and then months down the road, we got a paved, curbed neighborhood. We got all the infrastructure in the ground, and it's cool to see it. And that's one of my favorite parts of the job is to see it grow, to see it come to life. And but yeah, so I fly drones for us, and that's how we topo our job sites, quantify our dirt, how much we moved, how much more we got to move.
Wow.
Yeah, we get down in the weeds on it, and track your shrink swell factor and all this stuff. But it's crazy. Yeah.
That's really cool that you do both. That you do the podcast and you still have your boots in the dirt.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it kind of brings a different aspect to it.
I know it does.
And
I know it does.
And I don't know. It kind of brings a more of a real aspect to it. That, I talk about it, but I try to do it. I try my best to set a good example. I'm not always the best at it, but I try really hard every day, man. I try.
So we've talked a lot here. We talked about your one thing. We've talked about your origins. We've talked about your podcast and what STRACK is about and what they're doing. We've talked about the investment that we all need to make here in the next generation. I was talking with a guy recently. So we're here. These are high school kids, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we're here, and you guys are making that investment. I talked with a guy, and he said, if you're not going after kids when they're in high school, you're already too late.
Yep.
And I think that's really important to recognize. And I also would say in the trades industry, there's such a shortage. We're so behind that if we're not doing that, then your company is in trouble overall.
Right. And that's what Jonathan sees.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone, not just him, that's what Aaron Nick sees, man. He's here, he goes to these events, and that's what he sees, and that's what he's pushing really hard for us to get. And like you said, if you're waiting for these for after high school kids, then you're too late.
Yeah.
But a lot of these kids, I think I mentioned it earlier, college is not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not. And the earlier that these kids can realize that, like the bigger advantage they will have when they get to the workforce.
Yeah.
And because it's here waiting on them. There's plenty to do.
I think we talk about time and things like that. I've heard this term recently, and let me step back. I don't think there's anything wrong with college or trades, but I do think we need to talk about it differently than we have for the past 40 years. And what I mean by that is we're talking about education.
Right.
And education isn't college or the trades. You get education from both. And
I feel like you get education a lot of times from the previous generation.
You 100% do.
And that's something that I've learned a lot. A lot of the stuff that I've learned has been from the guys that are 30 years older than me. The guys that have been doing this for their entire life.
Yeah.
And to me, that's invaluable.
I 100% agree. I think that's what also then, as a young person, gives you balance.
Correct.
And I've heard this term recently called gap year. People are using this term a lot, where you don't plan out that what college you're going to right out of high school. You don't do this. And my father, he had some great wisdom that he spoke over me when I was young, where he told me to learn a trade first.
Right.
He's like, go to college, do whatever, but learn a trade first.
Yeah.
And honestly, way back when, that's how it was. You didn't come right out of high school and go right into college. People saved up their money and actually paid for their college. So that took time.
Right.
And they had to have a job. And I would encourage people with what we were even just talking about, if you're a young person and you're trying to figure out what you're doing for a career, it's really interesting. At STRACK, you guys have lawyers, you have accountants, you have all of these things in your company and in your organization. And it's like, so it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, but I would encourage people, forget the gap year, but do what we're talking about. Master something. Take 5 years.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you graduate when you're 18, where are you at in 5 years? You still have a lot of time.
A lot of life left.
A lot of life left. And the importance of recognizing that you can work in the industry and learn different aspects of different things and get that life experience.
Yeah.
That you can't get that from a college campus.
No.
I'm sorry, but you really can't do that.
Well, college has its place.
It does.
It has its place. And,
5 years later.
Yeah, it has its place. But, I went to college, and I learned quick that college is a business.
All right, we're done. Yeah, this has been good. Great, thanks. I'm just messing with you.
I learned quick that college is a business. And
interesting.
And, it's not always got your best interest in mind, but you can get tangled up with a company like this. Yes, it's a business, but they also have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And they want you to grow, and because they need you to grow.
Yeah.
We need those people.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that talking to these kids, and when they come up to our booth and talk to us, and I know they don't have experience, but I always ask them, all we need is two things.
Come on, here it is.
Is a positive attitude and good effort. That's
Yeah.
all we need every day, and we'll teach you the rest.
Yeah.
But those are the two things that I feel if you bring to the job site every day, you will be successful.
Yeah, attitude and effort. That is where it's at.
It goes light years.
It does.
It's crazy how powerful it is.
It does,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
So I always ask two questions. First one's a softball always, which I already asked you. Boots.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I gave you a heads up on this or not. I started to, but we got distracted. Second question that I like to ask people is, what's a mistake that you've made that you're willing to share with people that they might learn from? Because I believe that, one, if we can't look at our mistakes,
Right.
then we really haven't learned from them.
Right.
Then we're just covering them up and we're not dealing with them.
Right.
And two, for me, through the trades and through life, I've learned some very painful things from my mistakes, and I've learned to avoid some things because of people who were secure enough and had enough integrity and character to share with me their mistakes.
Right.
Which then I would say, if you're able to share them, I really don't know that it is a mistake. I believe that it's part of your journey,
Right.
and part of your building blocks.
Right. I think I actually made a mistake at work the other day, and it was a pretty big mistake. And at the end of the day, I wasn't paying attention.
Ooh.
I wasn't paying attention. And luckily, it wasn't a safety issue. It was just something that I was doing on my day-to-day, and it's something, that I just missed it. I wasn't paying attention. And to me, that was, and it cost us a little bit. We had to redo a bunch of pipe and all this, and I just made a mistake, and I wasn't paying attention. And that's something that, because I'm fortunate enough, I've been asked to teach the younger guys as we hire them in, and to kind of train them and show them the way, and I preach it every day. Pay attention to not only what you're doing, but your surroundings. Keep your head up and look around, man. See what's around you. But I wasn't paying attention, and it cost me. And that it still bothers me. It still kind of bothers me.
Well, it was just the other day. It would still bother me too. When you talk about paying attention, it's interesting to me. I want to ask you this question, and not to drill down on your mistake here,
Right.
but I'm going to.
No, it's all good, man. We got to talk about it. Yeah.
Was hurry involved?
To an aspect, yes. Hurry was involved, but I was mostly focused on showing this young guy. I say young guy. He's not young. He's newer to the industry, and I was just focused on showing him more of the complicated things, and I didn't focus on the simple things.
Ooh.
And I feel like the simple things is what makes the difference. You focus on those simple things, the big stuff will take care of itself. And
boy, that's true.
And I was overlooking the simple things because I made a simple mistake. It was simple, but it had a big
impact. Yeah, for sure.
It set a crew back about a half a day,
Wow.
And we don't get paid to put pipe in the ground twice. so it was a setback, and man, I felt terrible about it. And it was just a simple mistake. I wasn't paying attention, and I was focused on other things, and I wasn't focused on the simple things, and that's what got me.
Well, and I asked you earlier, what are some things that you can identify that people care? This is really interesting because I'm watching your organization live it out here. So that was a mistake that cost the company.
It did.
And you're still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now your face there was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll give it a couple of hours. We'll see what happens. But
I think that's a marker of a company that cares.
Man, they truly care.
Yeah.
They live it out every day, and they don't. Not only do they care about me, but they care about everyone. They care about these kids here.
They do.
They care. They care a lot. They care a lot in our communities. That's why we have that Give Back Day, and we care. And it's a big part of who we are, a big part of what we do every day.
So, we're coming to a close here. If people want to find STRACK, where do they find them? How can they, we're here in Marietta, Georgia today,
right.
but, if people are looking maybe to find a company that shares these values with them, where do they find STRACK?
Well, STRACKinc.com, obviously on the World Wide Web, but we're out of Fairburn, Georgia, down here south of Atlanta, about 20 miles or so south of Atlanta, and man, we're taking anybody.
Okay.
Anybody. Positive attitude, good effort. That's all we ask for.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for stepping up to the line. I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.